Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm going to present to you guys probably the most abstract and definitely one of the most challenging fragrances in my entire collection. Right off the bat, disclaimer, this is for experienced collectors only. It's Varanasi by Fusciuni. Hey guys, welcome back to Real Scent Review. Really just a very special offering tonight from a relatively unknown Italian independent fragrance house, Fusciuni. This is Varanasi. So sometimes we talk about scents taking us on a journey, a scent journey, so to speak. These are usually scents that are not going to be mass appealing. They're usually scents that a person wears for their own personal enjoyment, right? Maybe for meditative purposes, maybe for religious purposes, purposes other than just wanting to smell good in public for other people. This absolutely fits into that category. This is very strong, very smoky, very spicy, animalic. But if you're into perfumery for the art, this is definitely one you're going to want to check out. So just a little bit of background about the house, Fusciuni. It's an Italian independent fragrance company. Each scent that the company releases is based on the travels, the personal world travels of Fusciuni. He wanted to essentially recreate the ambience and the feeling of those special places in the form of a scent. So this one here, named Varanasi, it's based off of the city of Varanasi in India, which of course is one of the places where Mayo traveled, and he drew such inspiration from the place, it moved him so emotionally that he wanted to create a scent around this so people could experience what he experienced in Varanasi without necessarily having to go there themselves. Although from what I hear, Varanasi is a very interesting place and I myself would love to travel there, but that's beside the point. So Varanasi, a large city in India, very important for followers of the Hindu faith. The Ganges River, one of the largest rivers in the world, flows through the city of Varanasi, and a lot of devout practitioners of Hinduism choose to go to Varanasi in order to die there and in order to have their cremated ashes strewn across the Ganges River. So actually, in a little pamphlet here that comes inside the box, it's a memoir of Mayo's trip to Varanasi, and he explains how he took a guided tour on a boat across the Ganges River in Varanasi, and he'd smell, the smell of the bodies being cremated along with the river, the dirty, indolic smelling river with spices wafting through the air from all of the markets. So this little pamphlet here that comes with the cologne actually explains the thought process, the creative process behind this scent, Varanasi. Right off the bat, I find the inspiration behind this scent quite interesting. An interesting, intriguing, creative process behind a scent like this. I find that very interesting. I love to travel, but sometimes travel is not possible. So I like to be transported elsewhere throughout my scent journeys, let's say. Anyway, gonna get right into the presentation here now. It comes in a super solid box. I think it's like pressed cardboard, and there might be some sort of plastic coating on the outside. It's textured. It's almost like there's a grip to it. Very nice box. And on the front here, there's a picture. It looks like a gentleman washing his hands in what I'm assuming is the Ganges River in Varanasi. So normally the Ganges would flow west to east. In the actual city of Varanasi, the Ganges River flows briefly north so as to be able to touch the shores of the city of Varanasi. On the bottom here, we have the usual information. I'm not going to get into all that stuff. The bottle itself is a minimalist work of art. I really, really like it. Short, stout, rounded edges. This is the 100 milliliter bottle, by the way. I think they only come in 100 ml size. Anyway, Fusciuni Varanasi on the front. Parfum cap, extremely heavy. This is super solid. I feel like it's glass, maybe ceramic, but it's not hollow. Very dense, very heavy. And the glass bottle itself is also quite heavy. Bold but minimalist presentation, including the color scheme. It's ambery, kind of darkish brown. Just makes me think personally of the smell of smoky spices. And that's exactly what this fragrance smells like. So these are the notes that I actually detect. In the opening, a lot of saffron, a lot of cardamom, a lot of nutmeg. In the mid, cypriol oil, ambrette, and a little bit of rose. And in the dry down, it's all about the myrrh, gurgeon balsam, and oud. So the opening of this is very spicy. It's one of the spiciest fragrance openings I've ever smelled. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Honestly, the first time I smelled it, I was slightly taken aback. But, you know, the more pleasant it becomes, really, the more time you spend with it. But yeah, just to let you know, the opening is very strong. So we get that savory, spicy saffron in the beginning. There's also some warm, deep nutmeg, and there's some cardamom. The cardamom adds like maybe just a touch, like a touch of soapiness way in the back there. Sometimes to me, cardamom can give off very, very slightly soapiness, and I think I get a little bit of that here too. And in the mid, we get some cypriol oil, which is spicy, warm, woody. And there's definitely a good dose of ambrette in here. Now, ambrette, think of the dry down of Dior Homme Intense. We get that iris, that buttery iris, but there's also a very concentrated powderiness to that. And that very concentrated, almost woody powderiness is coming from ambrette. And we get a lot of that woody, concentrated, powdery ambrette in this. By concentrated powder, I mean, you know, what I think of when I smell ambrette is, imagine there's a bunch of powder and you take it and you compress it into a solid form. That's kind of like the consistency that I associate with ambrette, and also it's like a very sharp powderiness, almost a woodiness. Yeah, there's a lot of that in here. And also there's a bit of rose, but it's not a typical jammy, sweet, you know, overly feminine rose. In this one, it just adds a bit of a wateriness, like a bit of a watery floral type of accord. I think it's really nice. I usually kind of hate roses actually in fragrances, but here it really works. And it's because it doesn't really smell like a typical rose. Like I said, it's more of just a watery floral accord in this. I know rose is a very complicated note, and there's many different types, but in this one, you know, watery floral. Now in the dry down is where it starts to get pretty challenging. So we get a lot of myrrh, so it's piney, it's resinous, very, very smoky. Very, very smoky here. If you don't like incense, you're not gonna like this fragrance. And because of that gurgeon balsam, again, it's gonna give it a spicy woodiness, kind of a balsamic accord to it as well. And the oud is gonna give it a very animalic presence in the dry down here. Now the oud is not barnyardy or fecal. It's actually very woody. The oud is very woody, a little bit it's smoky as well. But the way that the myrrh and some of the spices and the oud combine make this smell very animalic in the kind of pissy way, let's say. It smells rather pissy or ammoniacal. So be prepared for that. It's very animalic. And in the dry down, if you're not used to animalic scents, I don't think you're gonna like this. It's very powerful. So again, this is not going to be one to wear if you want to impress people. I think this is more for personal enjoyment. But if you're looking for personal enjoyment, if you're looking to be transported elsewhere, this is gonna do it for you. So the whole inspiration behind this fragrance, like I said, the city of Varanasi, death is a big theme that goes along with this fragrance. But I find it a little bit ironic almost that Varanasi is a, you know, fairly big city, got over 1 million people in the metro area. So while the city is mostly associated with death, I think also there's a bit of a liveliness to the city as well. And I think, you know, that watery rose gives this kind of an uplifting sensation. You know, all the other notes in this would lead one to believe that it's very dark, a very dark fragrance, and it definitely is. But I think that watery rose gives it a very interesting, uplifting contrast to the otherwise dark fragrance. I think there's a liveliness to this fragrance as well, just like the actual city has. So as far as artistic fragrances, this is just one of the best I've ever smelled. This is an absolutely gorgeous fragrance. It's very complicated. The note breakdown that I gave is just what I perceive after all of my own research, my own knowledge about perfumery. But like, I think this is one of those fragrances that is highly individual, so you might get slightly different notes, or the particular notes might, you know, react differently on your skin. You might interpret them differently than I do, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about this fragrance hobby that we're in. But I can assure you of one thing: this fragrance will take you on a scent journey. It is an amazing fragrance. So as far as comparisons, of course, there's a lot of fragrances out there with saffron, oud, rose. But this does not smell like the typical saffron oud rose combo. This is multifaceted. There's a ton of layers to this. It goes through, you know, distinct developmental phases. It's never just like a spicy floral oud. At any point, it's very much a sum of all of its parts, and there are a lot of parts to it. But I don't know. It kind of reminds me of some fragrances from Prin Lomros, which if you don't know about Prin Lomros, he's a Thai perfumer. He has a couple of independent fragrance houses. And if you're into artistic perfumery, you need to check out some of Prin Lomros' stuff. In particular, this one reminds me a little bit of Homa by Prin Lomros, also maybe a little bit of Axum by Prin Lomros as well. But again, not the exact same. And yeah, just gonna leave it there. It's a super unique fragrance. And you're gonna pay for the uniqueness and the quality of this. 100 milliliter bottle can be had on Max Aroma for $260 US. So, you know, it's a very expensive fragrance, and who knows if it's really worth that much. But I can say this, I think if you use this very sparingly, which you most likely will, this will last you many, many, many years. It can be used for very special occasions, used very sparingly. Again, this is not one I would want to wear in public, at least not in most circumstances. So the point is 100 milliliters of this is gonna last you a super long time. So although it is expensive, the craftsmanship is otherworldly, and it's just so unique, and it's powerful. The performance on this one, at least an hour and a half, very, very strong projection, very strong sillage. This sticks in the air for like almost an hour when you leave the room. Really good performance. Although the longevity might not be as extreme as the opening loud projection would have you believe. So I get like, you know, between 8 and 9 hours longevity. So it's not the longest lasting, but still 8-9 hours is super, super solid in my books. And yeah, just a really good fragrance. Although I must say, if you can find this on a discounter, always go the discounter route instead of paying full retail. That's what I say. So guys, that's been my review of Varanasi by Fusciuni, one of the most artistic fragrances I've ever smelled. Truly an inspirational fragrance, one that transports you to just a different place entirely. And if a scent can do that for you, I think that that scent is very special, very lovely, very worthwhile in my books. So anyway, guys, hope you feel the same way about this wonderful fragrance, Varanasi by Fusciuni. Until next time, keep it real.